Nelson with Cascade Media Group and What's Up Kansas City. And today we have Jackson County Sheriff, Mr. Darryl Forté. How you doing, Darryl?
I'm doing well. How are you, sir?
Doing all right. How about giving our community a little update on what the Sheriff's Department is doing and how you see the C-19 affecting what your department does, and what do you look forward for 221?
I'll first explain our duties and responsibility according to the Charter of Jackson County, Missouri. We're responsible for judicial security services, meaning security of all our courthouse facilities in eastern Jackson County and downtown Kansas City, as well as our Juvenile Justice Center. We're responsible for sex offender registration and enforcement. For those that are non-compliant in sex offender registration, we go out and look for them and arrest them for being non-compliant. And we also provide services, law enforcement services, to unincorporated areas of Jackson County. We have deputies out on patrol. We call those road deputies. And with regard to COVID, just this last week, we had our first cases of COVID back in the detention center downtown. And we have four inmates with COVID and 0 non-inmates with COVID. And we have 96 inmates in quarantine, just so we can watch them to make sure they don't have COVID and they're not spreading it within the facility.
Tell me this, have they had the opportunity to get the shot?
Yes, and if the numbers increase, we'll do that again for staff and our inmates there. But yes, they had opportunities to get shots. Well, we've never stopped the mitigation process for hand washing, distancing, and things like that. So we continue to do that. We had pretty good control over the last round, and I'm hoping we do the same here. We have a very competent staff there. Matter of fact, our staff at the detention center, our director, Diana Knapp, she's been on a tour and actually been talking about the Jackson County Detention Center because of the improvements that's been made there.
Shout out, Dan.
Doing good.
Keep doing the good work. So how do you see your department for 221 finishing out this year? What are some of the challenges, and how are you looking at where we go from here?
I think a huge challenge is, as some people know that during my last two elections, I didn't get support from sheriff's office personnel. The majority went with another candidate in the last election. Many wanted the last sheriff, the one I replaced, for scandalous reasons. He left, I should say. And then many wanted him back because I think the accountability level has increased. And I think some people are getting on board now because they know I plan to be around a while. I made that known. So I think that's one thing we'll do, is continue to build relationships. And I'm not angry at anyone that didn't support me. That's over. I'm here and I plan to be here for a long time. We just want to move the sheriff's office forward with some of the things that we're doing, for sex offender registration and enforcement. We brought up a new system where they can register sex offenders that are required by law to register. They can get on the computer and our call and register, so they don't have to sit downtown a long time in front of a lot of people. We've streamlined our report processing system. We just started a new system, IA Pro, where we can do a lot of things by electronically, I should say. We can do a lot of things versus the paper reporting. We're just getting that system up and running, getting new radar guns. And many of our deputies, majority of our deputies, weren't qualified to run radar. They weren't qualified to process DWI arrests. So we're for this year, I want to make sure everyone's in compliance with that, because again, we only had 5 or 6 people that could process DWI, and they were people in our traffic unit. And that's not acceptable for a county this size. Our traffic unit roams throughout the entire county. They do a lot of work in the urban core. And what I've had, since people didn't support me and it was known and they put it out publicly, when I wanted to do some things in the urban core, as I talked to people that live and work in the urban core, they expressed they didn't want deputies there. They preferred the deputies not be there because, and I tried to understand, I'm still trying to understand, but they were saying they didn't support you. Why would we think they would come here and support our community? And all I've asked people to do is come to work, adhere to policy, and perform every day. So that's a few things I want to make sure we accomplish in 2021. Build some relationships after the election, and I won by 82%. People seem like they like me the next day. So I understand how that works too. Again, they know I'm gonna be around for a while. So just building some of those relationships. I had to eliminate some units. Our professional standards division was one of the divisions I eliminated, and our SWAT. They call it a SORT team, but our SWAT team. I eliminated that, and I'll share this with you too. I'm concerned about the behavior of some of the people at the sheriff's office, and I haven't fired a single deputy in 3 years. Been here about 3 years and 3 years and 2 months, I guess. Haven't fired a single deputy. We've had some leave and wanted to return after they left, but I think they know that the professionalism is going to be at a heightened level. I've hired in 8 years or so, there's been probably 10 or 11 black males hired in the last 8 years. I hired 10 of them. So again, and then people always say, well, don't lower your standards. It has nothing to do with lower standards. Everybody I'm hiring above average character and those sorts of things. And I've hired more white deputies than I have black. And I don't look at people whether they white, black, male, or female. I'm looking for the best qualified candidates. So that's something that we're doing too, is making sure we give everybody an opportunity. It's not just a slogan. We give everybody an opportunity that's qualified.
Tell me this. You said a whole mouthful, I should say, but I think when you were telling me about there's some people converting in the department that see what you're doing that might, when you came on, wasn't really in your lane, but some of them are getting in your lane. The first thing I thought about were kids, and my kids. When you give discipline and clarity and you bring order, a lot of that people don't like it, but as the order and everything starts taking shape and they see the improvements, then they're like, oh, that's not a bad thing. It's like the building that I'm in, they had people were coming in and out and all kinds of stuff. They got some new management. Everything is clean. The building is locked down. At first, it was like, oh, they got this and that. But now everybody likes how things are being run. And
that's right.
That's what I see with you. And did the sheriff's department even do what you're doing from a reaching out standpoint? You come on the show, you bring, you've assigned Sergeant Doug Blodgett to come on the show, represent. To me, all of that's new for our law enforcement in general. And it seems like when I call you for interviews and ask what the subject is, it's more like you can talk about anything that you want to talk about. And because you know the job that you're doing and everything is above board. That's how Ms. Nelson looks at it as a host. I don't do no in-depth on the sheriff's department, but even with Doug, having a relationship with him has been good for me. And I know the conversations that I have with Sergeant is good for him, and possibly changes how he interacts with the department and how he interacts with the community. And I think it's a trickle down effect. And I'm so happy that you're over there at the sheriff's department, being a black man per se. As I tell my mentorees, when they don't like the police or this and that, I'm like, well, you complaining. We have to have people that look like us so that it won't be one-sided, so that our concerns can be addressed. And I think that you did a great job, and I'm not a suck up king. with the Kansas City Police Department because my brother-in-law Leon was on the crime commission, and my other brother-in-law Ronald Harden, he retired from the police department. And you came in. I don't say you cleaned it all the way up, but I think that you did a hell of a job for how the department had been running. And I think that the community should be supporting you. And if the people in the sheriff's department and in government in general truly want to see progress, they'll get behind you.
And I want to thank you for this opportunity once again, and thank the other members out there in the community that have supported me for years, not just when I became chief, but as I rose through the organization from 1985 as a recruit all the way into the
Talk about
time I
that
was
real quick. Talk about rising through the organization. Really, what I want you to do is talk to young Black men right now about the Kansas City Police Department, of what is the importance of becoming an officer of the law, and then how you feel about the sheriff's department.
First, I tell them, follow your heart. Don't be distracted by critics. And when you join an organization, whether the police department or another organization, don't try to assimilate. Don't try to be like everybody else. You know, be who you are. Be who you are. And I think that's what happens, at least in my little world from, joining the police department in 1985. You have to be uniform in a lot of things, but not in the way you think and not in your beliefs and your character. And I've seen so many people come in and they want to fit in. I never tried to fit in. I've prayed since I was a young kid. My grandmother and my mom made us go to church. I didn't understand when I was young, and I have that in me. I pray about things, and I seriously don't worry about what everybody thinks. I'm 59 years old. Never tasted alcohol. Never experimented with drugs. I did a whole bunch of other stupid things, but I won't talk about them in law enforcement. But I never did those things because my mom made it clear that you need to know what you're doing at all times. So don't. And I'm not going to say that peer pressure is not strong out there for a lot of people at all ages, but be who you are. Be who you are, and again, don't try to assimilate. Don't try to just run with everybody and be like everyone else. And then and most people know I got a big payout when I left the police department. They were talking about comp time. I didn't take a lot of sick days. I didn't take a vacation for almost 6 years, more than a few days here and there. And I was paid at a chief salary, so I made a lot of money. And I had a plan when I joined the police department about putting money up for retirement. And then when I became chief, I had a dollar amount that I wanted to make. So I didn't take a lot of vacation. I don't encourage that either. Take your vacation, enjoy life. And if I look back on things as police chief, I probably should have taken more vacation. But again, I live and learn. I'm taking them as a sheriff. I was out of town 10 days. First time ever I've been out of town for 10 days.
I'm the cutoff king. I'm going to say this to you. I don't think that and I've seen progress at the police and at the sheriff's department. I don't think that progress would have been made if you took them vacations. And when I call you, but 4 a.m, you talking about I'm getting ready to get on, or 5 a.m, and you working all day and what have you. And I think that sets the tone for the department. And I think if you, like you said, follow your mind. Your mind says, this is what I need to do. And I think those were really good decisions. It might have hurt you by not enjoying your personal, but I think now the tone is set. As you say, you just came back and what have you. I think it's a new day.
Exactly. And then to talk about law enforcement, excuse me, there's so many opportunities in law enforcement to reach out and help. And I don't encourage a lot of people personally to get in law enforcement. I want people that I talk to that I can feel they have the passion for it already, not looking for a job. That's right. It's a calling. And some days I'm tired. And when I left the police department in 2017, I wasn't tired when I left. I just felt like I was finished. God was talking to my heart saying, do something else. You've done what you can do here. And so I wasn't mad. And then people said, why'd you run out? I gave an almost 2-month notice. But again, I think sometimes depending on who you are and where you come from and your race, you're looked at differently. I had so many questions about it. Why'd you leave suddenly? And I'm thinking, if you look back, at least at all the 5 or 6 chiefs I worked for, nobody gave a long notice like I did. Again, nothing was wrong. I just knew it was time. I didn't want to come to the sheriff's office when I was asked. but I prayed about it, and it just hit me, and I'm glad I'm here. And it doesn't feel like a job. It does not at all feel like a job. I love coming to work. I love, and it doesn't feel like work. You know, I'm supposed to be here now. I feel like I'm where I'm supposed to be. I've gotten community support from, again, when I was a young officer. So I tell the people that's interested in law enforcement, pursue it. Don't pursue it if you're just looking for a paycheck or something just to get you over until you get into something else. It has to be a passion. And for me, I believe it has to be a calling. So I don't try to talk anybody into it. But when I talk with people and they speak of wanting to serve and how they care, that's when I get excited and say, okay, let me take you by the hand and take you through the process. But if you're just looking for a job because you got laid off or you want to do something, I don't think this is an occupation for you. And I think when we see those things that happen around the country, where people are not serving like they're supposed to, I won't mention all the incidents that have occurred. Everybody knows George Floyd and a whole bunch of other ones. Their hearts are not in it, and they shouldn't be in law enforcement. And most people telegraph early on that they shouldn't be in law enforcement, but it's a tight knit system. People take care of people.
That's where, hold it, Sheriff. That's where I was giving you your kudos with the police department and with the sheriff's department, because we have private conversations. And I wanted to say this, and I will say this. You know, I be around and I have my opinions about these ministers and these leaders, and I let them know they don't like me. I don't give a shit. You're one of the squeaky cleanest persons I've dealt with in a long time, and in our community in general. I'm saying, because I'm one, I might not put their dirty laundry out on the air, but you are squeaky clean.
You know, I have my faults and I made my mistakes, but again, I get up.
Thoughts and all of that to have nothing to do with staying squeaky clean.
No, but you know, like I said, I did some things when I was chief. When I look back, I probably shouldn't have promoted some people, and I should have fired some other people at the sheriff's office. And you talk about Sergeant Blodgett. He was my biggest critic from the day I walked in the door, and he switched. As a matter of fact, he helped the last candidate during his campaign. And I don't hold grudges, and I don't hold on to all that stuff. And like I said, and I'm the one that said he could come on your show.
Right.
You know, because I don't hold grudges, and that's what I try to show other people. My blood pressure is good. I'm on no medication because I just try to make sure I take care of me. I forgive other people. I don't come in every day trying to figure out, you know, how I'm gonna pay somebody back that didn't support me. I don't care, because God put me here for a reason. God will keep me here for a reason, whether everybody at the sheriff's office likes me or no one likes me. I'm not concerned about those kind of things. But I try to lead a life where if the camera's on me most days, that I'll be okay. You know, I say some things some days that think some things some days that I shouldn't say or think. But you know, as I get older, like I said, I'm 59. As I get older, those days are less frequent. I think about what I'm doing before. I don't say everything that's on my mind, because that wouldn't be complimentary to me or my family. So I'm growing up a little bit. I'm not where I need to be, but I'm not where I was, 5, 10, 15 years ago.
I just like the job that you've done. And I don't know really how the majority community views you, but I know the Black community. I'm not even going to say no African-American community. The Black community has a whole lot of respect for you. I never really, you somewhat like the mayor in law enforcement. I think I told you that the mayor be everywhere. But when you was police chief, even, and I say this all the time, I shouldn't say it, but it's true. I'm a gangster posing as a businessman. And one of my friends, Tommy Simmons, we somewhat come out the same. And I know he has the respect for you. And I seen how you work with guys like me and guys in the urban core. When you was police, when I say work, you're not like you or mistakes that we've made in our life and what have you. And you've been accessible. And I really appreciate you giving me to Doug, because I don't talk to a lot of law enforcement, especially white law enforcement, with the relationship that I have been able to create with Sergeant Blodgett. And the more we have these conversations, the more everybody see all our blood is red, and all of us Black and white. I know I love my country. I know my godfather called the capo, if it's not good for Kansas City, he don't care what color it is you are. And I think when we have these type conversations, that lowers the tension and the understanding.
And I think we need to have these conversations pre-incident. Oftentimes in law enforcement, after the incident, we want to go out and talk to people. And I learned early on, and I haven't shared this incident with a lot of people, but I remember when I was in elementary school at Brush Creek in South Benton, a guy pulled a shotgun on me, my uncle, and a couple of my uncle friends as we were getting across that park over there, Brush Creek Park. And I remember talking, saying, hey, we need to call the police, because the guy circled back around, jumped out. He had a black leather coat on, I'll never forget it, pointing a shotgun at us. And of course, we standing there because we couldn't run, and, for a number of reasons. And I said, we need to call the police. And they started laughing, like, call the police for what? That was one of the defining moments in my young life, thinking, man, we can't even call the police because nobody trusts the police. And this was in the 70s, early to mid 70s, or I guess early 70s. So I learned a lot of things, and I have that passion. People don't understand. Even now, I go to homicide scenes. I'm out meeting people on a regular basis because I don't want people to have that same feeling that I had when I was a kid, saying we can't rely on the police. I give my number to everybody. 816.
That's what I was getting ready to say. I'm the cutoff king. That, you remember I mentioned Tommy?
Yes.
And so I had learned from him, stuff be going on in the streets and what have you. He'll call you and say, hey, there's a homicide over here, and there's different people that will call you and say, this is going on. And that is what good policing is about. Not
Absolutely.
You having to find out by being where people will call you and say, this is not right. This is blah, blah, blah. And it's not about telling on nobody or what have you. Again, if it's not good for Kansas City, it should be off the table. And what would you say in closing, Sheriff? What message would you have for our overall community? And I'll put you on the hot seat. What would you have to say to the Jackson County legislature and the county exec? Because I'm really close with the county exec. We communicate several times a week. He cares about our community, and what I love about him, he does what's right. He's not worried about all the negative conversation. He does what's right. I talked to him numerous times. Frank, and I hate.
Oh yeah, it's the same legislature, and I have nothing against him. Again, I forgive people. If you all recall, just before I was going through my doing my cancer bout, where we had several people say, well, Darryl's making women disrobe as they come into jail. The ones that's coming to visit, meaning attorneys, they got together and said they had a hearing on me, and the policy had been in place 2 years before I came here. And if you couldn't get through the metal detector, you couldn't go see anybody in the jail. And then when, of course, I continued to enforce that, then it became a big deal. Darryl's making people disrobe. The legislature had a hearing on me. No, not a single legislator called me and say, hey, what's the deal on this? They called a hearing. The date that they gave me for the hearing, I said, I'm not available. They made the hearing on that date. So there's a lot of things. And again, I'm not mad at them, but that just showed me early on in my tenure at the sheriff's office that the things that happened in the 20s and 30s and 40s, you take a black male and you're saying he's making white women predominantly do this.
That would have been catch 22, because now you say, well, you don't have to do that. Then they come after you. Oh, he's not following the policies.
Absolutely. And my problem was, you have an entire elected body that didn't even call me and say what. And I told some of the elected officials, some of the media outlets, when they called me, I said, this is the policy. They didn't care because they had that momentum. And then after everybody figured it out 3 or 4 weeks after the fact, it just died down. Nobody said anything, but that just showed me again. And that's what I try to tell the young brothers out there. Don't let people distract you and from what you need to do. And then the reason I didn't make a lot of noise during that period, I had that cancer diagnosis. I knew it was coming up, the radiation, hormone therapy, and something just told me, be still. You don't have to defend yourself. When I first got out there and I talked to some of the media people saying, this is what happened, something just touched my heart and said, man, be quiet. You don't have to defend yourself. And guess what? Everything within a month just went away. And that's what, again, I say to the people out there, we have a lot of good elected officials out there. We have a lot of good law enforcement officials out there. The majority of law enforcement officials out there would give their lives to protect anybody out there, people that they don't even know. But and what my problem is, and I said this over and over, if an airline was bragging about 80% of their pilots could fly, would you fly with them? In law enforcement, one bad apple, one rogue police officer is too many. So we need to make sure we rid the organizations of those people. But most of the law enforcement officials out there would give their lives for you. And I think it's an honorable profession. Well, I know it's an honorable profession. People love our community. They love serving. But just those negative incidents that rarely occur, they impact everyone else. So again, I think the majority of the community respects and works with law enforcement. But there's a small segment out there that every time they get the mic, they want to be negative about law enforcement. But I love my brothers and sisters in law enforcement. We're not perfect. And one thing I want to throw this in there too, the sheriff's office, we're getting what they call a firearms training simulator machine, because what I know we need to do in law enforcement, and all I can control is the sheriff's office, we need to make sure we do a better job at threat assessment. I think a lot of things that have happened around the country is poor threat assessment, and we can identify rogue police officers too. That's just off topic a little bit, but because they normally telegraph how they are, kind of like the George Floyd incident. That also had many issues prior to the George Floyd incident. And
this is what I want, because Doug and myself talked about this new firearm thing. Tell the audience a little bit about that new, what you're doing with the firearm training. It's
the firearms training simulator, and that just like a virtual. It's almost like a well, I don't want to say a game, but it's like a virtual, like real life scenarios that you actually have a chance to perform, where the shoot, don't shoot scenarios. And it's bigger than just the sheriff's office. We can bring other people out in the outside community and let them look at it and let them see how they perform. And then you get a better understanding of why we do what we do. And it's a very critical training tool for us. We can go out to the range and do live fire with, steel targets and things like that. And we need to do that, continue to do that. But we also need some scenario based where you have people walking with a cell phone in their hand. You might need some people that make sudden movements and things like that. And so we need to practice those over and over, not just once a year. So we have our own firearms training simulator, and Kansas City has one, a few other agencies. We can practice whenever we want to and become proficient at that.
All right. Well, Sheriff, it was a plum pleasing pleasure having you on the show. That's Jim Watts's lines. That's how he closes, but I steal this stuff all the time. And I'll say to our audience, when you invest in your community, you're really just investing in yourself.
The program is brought to you by the Kansas City Business Association.